Hi everyone, I'm Adolfo Marinucci, and in this video I want to show you how you can create an application using MauiReactor. It's an application that will be developed for targeting Android and iOS systems. For the purpose of this video, I'm not showing you how you can actually build an application for the desktop environment, for example, for Windows or Mac OS. But you can find many other samples in my GitHub repositories. In my GitHub pages, you can find a lot of applications that target also the desktop environment. Okay, what is MauiReactor? MauiReactor is a library that I built now a few years ago that I use much every day, that you can use to build application that target a MauiNet framework. Actually, MauiReactor is a library that is built on top of .NET MAUI framework, so you actually can use many, if not all, the controls that are already developed for the .NET MAUI environment. And also, MauiReactor has some nice features. Is a library that let you build application using a system, an approach that is called MVU, so Model View Update. That is pretty different from the classic approach that is MVVM. In MVU approach, you actually build components that are related each other in a tree-like view, and each page has a root component and has many other child components. Each component can have many child, and also each component can have a state. The state is actually the state of the component that you can link in your render function. If you want to look into the MauiReactor library deeper, you can always reach me at my GitHub workspace, where you can find the source code of MauiReactor. Of course, MauiReactor is an open source project, so you can use in commercial application, of course. And there you can find a lot of information about the library. You can find how you can install it in your system. You can find a nice website with the documentation where it is explained how you can create the components, how you can interact with the MAUI framework, and many other things. Another pretty good feature about the MauiReactor is its auto load engine. It's a component that it's a library that I built that is specific for MauiReactor that let you auto load your application while you are developing it. And okay, let's start to build this application. As you can see, this from the first look, you can see that this application is we have a Figma design here that we wanted to use to replicate it. From the first look, you can see that there is a light theme and a dark theme. I chosen a project file like this because I want to also to show you how you can use the theming feature of MauiReactor to actually have implement you can actually implement the light and the dark theme in your applications pretty easily using MauiReactor. There are a few screens. The first one is the opening screen page. This app, as you can easily see, it's an app that deals with the tasks. Is more or less a to-do application, but actually is more than a simple to do application, because as you can see, we can create task that we can link to a specific list. For example, we have a few lists like work, lifestyle, personal, etc. We can create a task with a specific date, today, for example, or a date in the future or in the past. The application also features another pretty fine, a pretty page, like the page that lets users to search among tasks. Also, it has another page where a small statistic is shown to users. For example, it's possible they want to if they want to see what is the completion rate, they can open this page, and they also see how many tasks are completed monthly, weekly, yearly, and so on. We look at these charts, and this chart also we'll see how we can easily animate it to engage even more our users. Also, there is the last page is the classic settings page, where user can select or change something about the application. Of course, for the purpose of our tutorial, we are not going to implement all these features, all these menu options. Much probably we are going to implement just the theme option here that allowed us to switch between light and dark theme, and also see how the dark theme is appears on the page. Okay, but we are ready to start. Of course, I have already implemented this application before started the video tutorial. The application is open in Visual Studio in another screen, but with you, I'm going to start from scratch. I want to show you how we can build the application from zero, and so uh, in the tutorial, in this video tutorial, I'm going to create with you the application, and as soon as I have shown you a new feature, shown you a new component, I'm just going to copy the already written code in the specific position, just to speed up the video tutorial. I want to say that this application, I have built this application in 2 full days of work, much because I have, of course, a lot of experience with MauiReactor, but I guess in a week or so, anyone can build this application using MauiReactor. And so we can start. We can leave this Figma project in the background while this is a good approach that I use when I build my application. I usually have the Figma project open, and often I'm going to zoom in, zoom out, take the distances between the components, between graphics objects. I'm going to explore the Figma project in order to see which is the color used, which is the font used, the font size, the margins, and so on. So let's put this Figma design back and open a new, create a new MauiReactor project. So let's create a MauiReactor project based on the app shell. So let's start with it. So let's put it here in a folder. Let's create it. One thing that you should pay attention every time you start building a new application, even if not created with MauiReactor, is the assets folder. So, I mean, before starting, be sure to to collect all the resources that you need. For example, fonts, images, look at the colors. So get a deep look inside your project, inside your design project, for example, in Figma, to get um, all the assets that you need, so you can start building your application without bothering every time to stop, add the missing resource, restart the application. I found that, in my experience, I found that this is a pretty good advice to speed up the development. Okay, when you create a new application in MauiReactor, you'll find that the application is created using this template, an app shell. This app shell is a component that create actually a shell with two pages. So let's start from adding these resources to our application. In our application, we are not going to use the XAML for styling our components, but we are going to use the MauiReactor theming feature. So these XAML files, we can remove those files because we don't need them. Here we are going to add a new class that we can call application theme. This application theme is a class that we want to derive from the MauiReactor theme. Okay. And here in the onApply method, we have to specify all the styles that we want to apply to our widgets, and we will look at it in a moment. Also, here in the images folder, there is the .NET PNG folder, the classic image that we don't need, but we need all the resources that are already exported from the Figma files. Let me open it. Okay. Okay. Here we have all the resources that I have extracted from the Figma project. Okay. Also, we need the fonts used in the projects, and these fonts are I have downloaded it from the from using Google Fonts, but you can get them from your preferred source for fonts. Okay. So let's start from actually initializing all this stuff in the MAUI program project, in MAUI program class. Okay, so a few things we have to initialize is the MauiReactor exception handler. Is something that I usually set up in the first place. I just subscribe to this callback and I write the exception that may happen when I'm going to develop the application using MauiReactor to the console. Also, I want to connect my fonts here in the configure fonts callback. So I'm going to attach these new fonts that are used in the design file. And also, I'm pretty sure because there are some things like some behaviors that much probably I'm going to use in our application that are contained in the MAUI community toolkit. So usually I use MAUI community toolkit for a series of things that are usually useful. So let's connect the MAUI, the community toolkit for MAUI. Let's add this to our project. And connect it in the MAUI program. Okay. Okay. Also, I want to instruct my MauiReactor application to use the application team class. Here I'm going to say to MauiReactor to use the team that is defined inside the application team. Okay, and here much probably the other page is not useful for us, so let me remove it. And also in the main page, let's leave for now this thing as it is from the template, just because we want to show you to show something on startup just for starter. And finally, in the app shell, I just need to open the main page inside the shell, like this. Okay, so let me see if I can, okay, start the Android emulator. Let me build this application. Hopefully it should build fine. Okay, the first time that it builds, it takes some more time, but it should be faster on subsequent compilations. Okay, let's restart Visual Studio because I see maybe there is a problem with the emulators. Let's see if now it actually it is able to detect our emulators. Okay, I'm going to select a pixel file API 34 for our project. So, okay, let's open it. The Android emulator previewer is an add-in that I built that let me actually create or show the emulator, the Android emulator just inside the Visual Studio. I think it's pretty useful when you are developing an application because actually you see the emulator that just sit beside your code and you don't have to move around the emulator window, minimizing or maximizing it as you develop. You can find the Android emulator previewer on the Visual Studio Marketplace add-ins. If you have any problems with it, just ping me on GitHub. But it should be working. I use it now are a few, maybe more than 1 year more than 1 year that I use it, so it should be working. Okay, and now I'm ready to start the application. It should start and show the classic counter initial page that comes from the default template. And let's see if it starts. Okay. Okay, we are here. Of course, there isn't the image because the image is something that I have removed from the resources from the images folder. And okay, it's working. Now I want to show you how you can actually start the hot reload. The hot reload is a library that I developed that helped me to actually hot reload my application. And let me open it just like using this command like this. Okay, the MauiReactor load is a library, as I said, is a console program that you can run using a command that is shown here in my GitHub repository, or you can also see all the options in the documentation website. I have created a command in Visual Studio that let me start this MauiReactor autoload just clicking on a button, but the final effect is pretty the same, is exactly the same. I'm going to setting up the autoload for my project, and now it's monitoring my folder where is contained the application. Every time I make a change to source code, that change is reflected to the running app. For example, if I want to remove this part and I save, if I look here, okay, of course I made an error. Okay, he's now building my application and is transferring the new application to the running app. Of course, the first time that you start the autoload, it takes some time to build and deploy the application, the new version of the application. But for subsequent builds should be much faster. Okay, so let's remove the scroll view. We have now an empty page. One thing that we can show you, that I can show you, is now how we start with the first page. So the main page is this one. As you can see, there is many components inside it, but as you can see, we can realize we can create something like a grid with a few rows. This is a row, this is another row. This one is a big row with start sizing, and the last one on the bottom is a row with a fixed size. So we actually need a grid with a specific sizing. As you can see here, I'm going to create a grid. I've detected the sizes. Also, the third row is a start sized, and the last one is a fixed row. Of course, these sizes, these margins are all detected using the Figma design. Um, in the space, from now on, I'm not going to say everything about what I did actually, because the video tutorial otherwise will take days at minimum. So for now, I can say just that every time you create a widget on your application, much probably you have to switch back and forth with the Figma project to actually get the specific size, get the specific padding, get the specific margin, font size, and so on, that you need to get to put inside your project, your application. So now I have created the grid here. So we have 4 components that much probably we need to render. The first is the title, the header. The other row is a calendar. The third row is actually a collection view that is grouped, because it's a collection view of tasks that are grouped by date. The last one on the bottom is a fixed row that contains some comments, some useful comments, like the ability to add a new task or to open settings or stage page. So here I'm going to add some function to our component. So here I want to render the header. the calendar, the body that is a collection view of the task, and the footer is the bottom row. Okay, so before dealing with this function, one thing that I want to show you is how to actually, from the starter, have your application theme set up so you can use styles, colors when you develop the application that are already theming aware. So let's back to the application theme. The application theme is where we are going to define colors, brushes, styles for widgets, and also theming selector. We'll show you how you can create the theme selectors that you can use to actually change styles of your widget, like labels or buttons and so on. So in the application theme class, we are going to set up a few colors. For example, surely I need a few colors that define the black and the white. As you can see here, I'm going to define these static properties attaching this property that is calling isLightTheme. This property gives us a bool result, give us true if the current theme is light, otherwise is a dark theme. And so I'm going to define the black in two ways, using one color for the light theme and another color for the dark theme. These colors, of course, are taken directly from the Figma project. So I actually created a few other colors properties like this that I directly recovered, that I directly got from the Figma file. So I identified these colors in the light and the dark theme. These colors are just property of the application theme that I can use directly in our page, in my pages, or also inside styles. Okay, let's define for now a few styles that define how we want to we want MauiReactor to draw our widgets. For example, we want to define styles for labels. Here we are going to say that all the labels should have this font, should have this text color, should have this font size. And also I want to create some defaults styles also for example, for the content page. I want to be that the content page have a white background. Of course, the white here becomes much darker, or almost black in the dark theme version. I want to disable the navigation bar, and also I want to change the default size for image button, for buttons in general. So I want to give to buttons a specific corner radius, a text color, and so on. And also I want to change something also for on entries, like putting the placeholder color with the gray accent. Another thing that I want to change is want to create some specific styles with a named style, like a class when you create a class in CSS under HTML. In MauiReactor, you can modify the default styles for all the widgets, but also you can create a specific style that you need then to set to a specific control. For example, I'm going to add a specific style, for example, for labels, but also for buttons. To do that, I create a class that I call selector. This class is actually a class that defines just a few string, static string, const string, like header, calendar item, body, primary, normal. This string are useful because when I want to create a specific style, for example, like this for label, I just make a reference to the name defined inside the selector class to specify that I want to create a specific class for label called header, and I want to change the font family. I want to use the semi-bold version, and also I want to increase the font size. And I identified a few more, other styles. For example, for labels, I want to define the calendar item class. I want to define the body class, and so on. I want to also define a specific style for image button styles, like the primary style. Also, I want to change it for the button. I want to create a specific style for the button widget using the primary selector. Okay. Now that I've defined this application theme is pretty complete. Of course, I have when developing the application theme, you can create the application theme at the start of the project and then augment it as you develop, as your development progresses. Okay, let's back to this main page. Okay, I have created these methods: render header, render calendar, render body, render footer. Each of these methods need to render a part of the page. Let's change this a bit so it doesn't complain. The IntelliSense doesn't complain. So return something on each page, on each part, like this. Okay, it should work now. Let's see if it's correctly built. Okay, of course, the page is still blank because we need to actually implement all these methods. Okay. So let's put inside the render reader actually the code that is going to render this part where there is the avatar and good morning. Okay. Let's copy paste the render either part like this. Okay. Okay, here we have a grid with some columns, something like the good morning label, the image of the bell. Okay. Here it seems that he has some problems with the stroke property, with the stroke method. Okay. Yeah, it seems that the ellipse needs MauiReactor shapes namespace. Okay, seems it's working now. Okay, as you can see, the header is appeared on the page. That's fine. Okay, now we are going to render the calendar. The calendar is implemented like a scroll view with the horizontal orientation, inside it an horizontal stack. So the calendar is actually a scroll viewer, like this. Okay, so we have the render calendar that needs to render a list of calendar item. Let's put in also the render calendar item method. The calendar item is just a number that is styled based on the fact that that date contains or not some to-do items. As you can see, the compiler complained because it can find a few things. The to-do item, the to-do item group, and also the current date inside a state. The current date is the date that is highlighted with the green color, and is actually the current date that I'm looking right now. So we need to change the project to first add this current date inside the state. The state right now has just the counter property that we don't need. So let's change it to a date time. Okay, the current date now is no more complaining. The current date initially can be today, of course. So we are going to highlight initially the today date. But as you can see, we need a few models, no? We need a model for to-do item, also a model for to-do item group. So let's create a new folder. Under it, we are going to create a few classes that we need to implement with all the properties that we need for our models. So let's create a to-do item class. Visual Studio, when it's running, doesn't let me change the folder when I create it. So for now, I need to change it manually. And then when it's the debugger is stopped, I'm going to rename the new folder name. Okay, here we are going to create a to-do item model that I created using a record construct. And as you can see, I'm going to add a task property, timestamp property, and also a to-do list enum. The to-do list enum is an enum where I put all my to-do list types that I identified like in work, lifestyle, personal, and so on. So you have a to-do list known, hobby, personal, lifestyle, work. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to just use an enum for the to-do list, but you can also change it in a class itself that you can and you can add the feature like the ability for user to create a new to-do list. Here I have asked my ChatGPT friend to create some to-do for me. I'm going to create 300 to-dos with some randoms text inside the task property, and also some random timestamp and some random to-do list enum. I have properties done that is set to true false using a random generator, like you can see here. Also, I need a to-do group that let's group our to-do item by date. This is the to-do group class. And I want the to-do item group to derive from the list to-do item. It's actually a list of to-do item, so I can just bind this class directly to the collection view and have the grouping of the grouping feature of the collection view working correctly. Let's back to the main page and let's add the namespace. I want to change the namespace to something like models. Okay, let's save. Okay, here we need the link to namespace. Okay, seems okay for me. Okay, the render calendar is no more complaining. It enumerates all the dates that are defined in the to-do list, all items. I'm going to work so that I'm going to show all the dates from a min date to a max date, adding minus plus the 10. Okay, as you can see now, we have the scroll viewer working. As you can see, is working pretty good. I also added this nice function here. So when I tap tap a current date, I set here the new current date to the date that is clicked in this faction. Yeah, I'm going to just set the new state, change the current date. Also, based on the current date, I'm going to show a specific color for the calendar item, like here. For example, if the day is the current date, I'm going to use an accent color, and if as some items, I'm going to show the gray or black. Gray if there aren't items for that date, or black otherwise. So looking at this calendar, I can clearly see that which is the current date, which is the date that contains some items, which date doesn't have any items. Okay, let's move to the body of the page, showing the list of items that are grouped, as you can see, by date. Okay, so we need a collection view with a grouping feature inside the render body. Okay, the render body is this function here. So we are going to add a collection view, and we are going to say that is grouped. And also I'm going to select the item source that I want to use, that is the to-do item group all properties, that the property that give us all the to-do item groups that are defined. Also, I want to provide some function that I use it to render the to-do item itself, but also the group header and the group folder. The render to-do item is something like this. Okay. The render to-do item function actually define a grid with some columns and also labels, border, and so on. And as you can see here, we have each item that is defined like so. So we have a grid with a center column that is star sized, where we are going to put the task, the name of the task, the description of the task. I also need a utils function that gives me the color of the color that we want to use for the specific to-do list enum item. This is a function that I want to just create inside another folder. So let's create a new folder that I'm going to name framework. Here, as you see, we haven't the ability to rename the folder, but for now it's fine like this. So let's create an utils class where we are going to add some utility functions. Let's call this namespace framework. And here inside the utils class, we are going to put some useful information, useful function. For example, the get color for list. The get color for list accepts the to-do list to-do list enum and provide some color for each to-do list value. Okay. Let's throw a not supported exception if we can find the item that it is asking. Let's switch to a more compact version. Okay, so here we need to add these to reference this namespace process 44 framework. Okay. Okay, the render to do item is working. Now I'm going to add render to do item group header and group footer. Of course, I'm really sorry for my English. If you can understand what I'm saying or if you miss something that you think is important for your understanding of the application development, feel absolutely free to comment the video or just open an issue in my GitHub workspace repository under MauiReactor or where you think is better for your understanding. Okay, here, as you can see, we need also another function to add in the utils that is used under the render to do item group header. The render to do item group header, as you can see, is this part. And as you can see, the date is rendered using a friendly name, like today, tomorrow, and so on. So I have created under utils a function that just do that, like this one. Yeah, just a small utility function that return a friendly description for the date that is passed to it. Okay, seems that we are here. Let's wait a bit that the compiler build and the autoload do its stuff. As you can see here, it's actually building the application and sending the new version to the emulator that is running. Okay, as you can see now we have the list that is pretty fine working, is grouped as we want. If you look at the render todo item function, I also added an on-tapped event callback when we click on the border on the left. It actually is going to change to toggle the is done property from true false false true. So if I click on this border, it actually change the is done property of the item. When according to this done property also I change the background of the board, this border that is the border on the left, but also I'm going to strike through the text of the to do. As you can see, it's pretty fine working. Okay. Now we have completed the most of the page. What is missing is the footer, this part on the bottom. This part on the bottom is actually this one. Okay, as you can see, it's just a few buttons that are rendered on the side of the footer, and let me copy paste what I've created. Okay, so we have a footer that is actually a grid. This grid is renders a couple of image button on the left and a plus button on the right. As you can see, the h end is the method that put the button on the right. As you can see, and I make heavily use of the theming that is a feature of MauiReactor, as I said. For example, here the theme key selector let me change the style of image button using this class selector. That is primary. So this image button is changed, is style, it changed using this selector. If you go to application theme and go under image button with primary selection, you'll see that I'm going to select the background color as accent, that in this case is more or less green. And just to let you understand better what is happening, what is going on here, the button is first rendered using the default style. So we are going to change the button using a corner radius, a text color, and a background color. But then, because I am going to select, I selected the primary class for the button, the background color is then changed to the accent version. So let's back to the render footer function. As you can see here, we have a couple of handlers. We have the open options pane and the open new task pane. That is the method callback that are called when one click on the hamburger menu on the left and the plus button on the right. And also there is this on-clicked on the search page that is just open the search page. Okay, so we need to implement this. We need to implement this code, this method callbacks. So we need a search page. Also, we need the open options page and the open new task pane. Okay, before dealing with the open new task pane and the open options pane, let's see how we can deal with this search page. Okay, this search page is actually the page that is shown here. It's just another page, pretty fine page, I guess, where there is a search task on the top, on the header, and then a couple of lists that show the search task and also the list on the bottom. So let's add the search page. Okay, much probably this search page need a state. Okay, of course, it need to derive from component search page state. Okay. Oh, component, non comparer. Component. Okay. Let's return for now just the content page. Okay, the search page now should be present, so the compiler doesn't complain. As you can see on the right, we have now rendered the footer of the page. So if I click on search, a new page is shown. Of course, it's now empty. Okay, in the search page, we need to actually show a few things like the footer and a body. So let's create these parts inside the content page. So I'm going to create a grid where I have a row of 64 sides as 8, and the body is rendered on the bottom and should fill all the remaining space. So we need a render header and a render body. As you can see, the render header is pretty similar to render header of the main page. It changes just a few things, like it use a chevron left icon that the user can click to go back to the main page, and also a search task entry on the top. So let's take the render header function that I just copy paste from my already written code. Okay, the render header is the top one. Let's comment out for now the render body. Oops. Okay, on the top, in a few seconds, okay, let's comment out this part for now. Let's see if we can see the header on the top. Okay, great. We have the header on the top. We have the entry with the script, with the placeholder search task or list. Okay, one thing we need to do is to actually add some properties to the search page state now that should handle the filtering of the task on the bottom. So we surely need a search string, property of type string that should contain the current searching string, searching test, and also we need a few other properties that let us store the list of filtered items by the search string, and also the list of a dictionary, in this case, of the count of items found for each to-do list and item. As you can see here there is this list on the right as the number of task that we found while the user enter his string. So here we need to initialize this state, putting in some useful initial values. For example, filtered items initially should be just all the items because search string is empty. Okay. As you can see here, I'm doing exactly this. I'm going to set filtered items to all the to-do items. Also, I'm going to group by list enum value all the items, and I'm going to store the count of the items for each enum item. Okay. Let's comment in back this part. When the user enters some text, we are going to store the search string that is searching, that is user is searching, and also I'm going to update the filtered items and the grouped items by list accordingly. It's pretty easy to see how it should work. Okay, now I'm going to also render the bottom part, that is the body, that is going to occupy all the rest, all the remaining space. The render body is actually something like composed of two parts. The first part is the list of tasks that is filtered, and on the bottom there is the list of the enum the counts by num values. So in this case, I have just a vertical stack with two collection views. On the top, the list of filtered items. On the bottom, the list of count filtered items by to-do list and num items. So I need to provide some render methods, one for the render to-do item. As you can see here, this item is more or less the same of this one. For now, I'm going just to reuse the same code, but of course here the good practice should be to create a component that render my task and also implement some things like the ability to toggle the is done property. But for now, I'm going just to replicate the same code that I see in the main page. Okay. On the bottom, I need the render to-do list item. That is a function that accepts the to-do list enum item and render the part accordingly. Here, of course, I also need the utility function that return the color for the to-do list item. And as you can see here, and also above, mainly is realized using a grid where there is a left part with a fixed sides, a right part with an auto sides, and a center part where I'm going to label out the item name. Okay. Also, that items count is got from the grouped items by list dictionary. Okay, if I save, everything should be fine here. So I should have the ability to just see everything. Okay, of course I'm out-reloading a component live, so the unmounted call is not the unmounted override is not called under out-reload. I have to actually recreate the the component. As you can see here now, I see all my tasks. And if I try to write something, everything should work. As you can see, everything is working fine. Of course, if you see a repeated message, it's just because I have 300 tasks, but the list of messages, available messages are just 30. So many tasks are going to reuse the same task message, but it's just it for dummy purposes right now. So if I modify the string, everything seems working fine. As you can see, everything is looking fine. Okay, let's go back to the main page. Before doing that, as you can see here, I have this underline in the entry. I don't like very much because in the original implementation in Figma, in the original design implementation in Figma, you can see there isn't an underline. This is something that we need to handle using a MAUI handler where we instruct the Android entry to actually hide this underline. So let's add this part because I want to show you how we can do that, and also I want to show you how we can add another feature that is provided using a NuGet package that we are going to integrate in our application. So let's just stop for now the debugger. Let's change the name of these folders. This is something like this. Okay, I want to, as said, I want to hide the underline in the entry of Android widget. To do that, I need to change a bit the mapper, appending a mapper, a my version of the Android entry using the standard .NET MAUI handler feature. So I'm going to just set the background a background color to the handler of the entry. So let's call this function just before running the application. So after that, now we should have an entry without an underline. Also, I need to attach a NuGet package because here, as you can see, when we create a new task, a pane should be a button shift should be shown from the bottom. As you can see, this feature is present here, also in the starter page. This is a bottom sheet that should come animatically from the bottom, and for this I decided to use a nice package that is called Bottomship Manager from the 49 package. So let's add this package to our application, use it in MauiReactor. So let's go to manage NuGet package. Let's search for the 49 Maui bottom sheet. Okay, let's add it to our application. Okay. Now we need to use, so extract the .NET MAUI application builder to use actually it. So we need to use to add this call. Okay, that's fine. Now to use the bottom sheet, we actually need we need to use actually a provider, a native control. Okay, to use that in MauiReactor, you need to create some code. You need to add some code, custom code to your application, because right now MauiReactor doesn't know what bottom sheet is, so it's unable to actually create it and add it to the page. Okay, to add it to the page, we need to actually create a new class that we are going to add to framework. Let's call it bottom, just a moment, please. Okay, to bottom sheet manager. This class is already available in the integration repository that I maintain that you can use to understand how you can integrate third-party controls. If you want to get a look, just go to MauiReactor integration repository here. Here you can find many implementation of common third-party controls. For example, in this case, you'll find the same code that I'm adding by myself to the application here under the 49 folder. So here I need to add some code that I just going to add to my application. As I said, this code is available in the integration repository. But if you have some fancy or some other specific control, feel free to create an issue under this repository, and I'll help you on investigate how to integrate it in MauiReactor. Also, here in the documentation side, you can find some useful information to how integrate third-party controls in your application. Okay, the partnership manager is here. Another things that I want to use is a behavior that comes from the community toolkit. I want to change the status bar of the application and change it accordingly to our theming. So, for example, if I have a light theme, I want the status bar white with the foreground color black. And vice versa, if I select the dark theme, I want the status bar of the application to become um, to become black with the foreground color white. Okay, to do that, I need just to add a class here called status bar behavior. Okay, the status bar behavior is a class that is a behavior that comes from the community toolkit. It's pretty useful, and I guess it's something that you already used in the past. Okay, to do that and to be able to use the status bar behavior, in MauiReactor, we need to scaffold actually use an attribute that comes from the MauiReactor package. So here we are going to use the community toolkit Maui behaviors status bar behavior. Also, this is something that you can find clearly explained in the MauiReactor documentation. It's a way to just say to MauiReactor, okay, the status bus behavior is a class that you can use, you can integrate in your page. Okay, after that, I think we can restart our application. Much better because we added some new nuggets to restart also the hot reload. Let's wait that the compiler builds and deploy our application, and after that we are going to restart the .NET the hot reload console command like this. Okay, okay. Now we are going to change and use the status bar behavior. So change these pages so that the status bar is no more of this color that is more or less violet, with something that is more comfortable for our application, like in this case, white with foreground black. So let's open the main page. One thing that you need to know is that the status bar behavior works fine only on Android. So we are going to add the status behavior only when building for Android with the code like this. So under Android, we are going to create the status bar. We are going to set the status bar color. Also, we are going to style the status bar according to the current theming. So, for example, in this case, if is light theme, we are going to use the dark theme for the foreground color. Otherwise, we are going to use the light content status bar style enum item. So if we save this page, we actually, as you can see, we are able to see the status bar that is now white and is working as we want. This is something we want to also change in the search page, and we are going to add the same thing, the same status behavior on all of our pages. Okay, say that now we want to implement the open new task handler. So let's comment in back the open new task theme pane. Let's create this method like this. Okay. In this case, what we need to do is opening the bottom sheet and showing something inside it. Of course, here we need to do also add the async. Okay. So what we are saying is now we want to open in the bottom of the sheet, in the bottom sheet, we want to open this component. This is a component that actually is what we need to create a new task. Okay, this component is something that we are going to add inside the new folder called components. In this case, as always, I can change it, but I'll change it when the debugger will be down. So let's create a new task pane component. So here I'm going to change also the component MauiReactor. Much probably we need also here a state. Okay. Okay, the new state, the new component, when it renders, it should add, as you can see, an entry on the bottom, a few on the bottom, a few buttons like the today buttons, the ability to select the list for the new task, and also the button on the right that serves to create actually the new task. Let me copy paste over there the code. Okay, as you can see here, I'm going to create a virtual vertical stack. On the top, we are going to add an entry. On the bottom, we want to render a grid where we want to render the calendar. That is what is today here, and also the list of enums, and on the right, the button that needs to be called to create a new task. Okay, the render calendar is a function that actually does a few things. It shows the today text like this, but also if I click on today, I want to show a data picker so that the user can select exactly the date that it wants. As you can see, we need a few properties inside our state that actually governs all these things. So let's add it. So we surely need a string with the task message for the new task, a timestamp that store the timestamp of the new task, they selected to the list, and also a value that show us that give us whether we need to show the today string or the data picker for the user to select a custom data picker. Also, as you can see, we need to implement the to-do list on the right of the today button. This is just a scroll view with horizontal orientation. Inside it, there is a horizontal stack. Again, here I need the get color for list utility function, because here I want to show a custom, the specific color for each to-do list item. Finally, I have to create a method for the create new task. For now, let's comment out it. Also, I'm going to store my entry, but I'm not sure this is required for us right now. Okay. Okay, so we have built this new pane, this new component that I'm going to show when I click on the plus button. Let's see if it works. Probably there is a problem with, okay, yeah, I need to also create some callback for the new task pane to inform the main page that the new task has been actually created. Let's add this prop here. That is an action that I need to call when a new task is actually created, passing in the new to-do item that has been created. Let's see if now it build correctly. Let's wait a bit for the first compilation. Just a second. Okay. Okay, seems pretty fine. So here I can add actually my task name. Also, I can select a date different from the today, and also I can select the type of task of the new task. Okay, what I need to handle now is the click on the create button. So let's comment in back the create new task handler. Let's create this new method. Okay, the create new task it seems pretty easy, I guess. We need to actually just create the new task like here. I prefer to put all the method handlers, all the event handlers on the bottom of the component. On the top, there should be only renders method, just for clarity. Okay, let me create this thing. Okay, so if I create new task, if I click create button, the create new task is called, and so I dismiss the button ship. So the button sheet is closed, and also I'm going to create the new item and inform I'm going to inform the main page that the new item has been created. So let's see if it works. So test. Let's create. Perfect. So I have created the new task that is actually created on today. So let's move to today, and we should see the new task. Okay, as you can see, the new task, the new task named test has been created. One thing that I don't like is the fact that when I create a new task like this and I push create, actually the keyboard here, the virtual keyboard is still open. It's not very useful like this, not much pretty. So let's go and let's try to use a community toolkit function that actually let me close the keyboard. To do that, this function needs the entry that is currently highlighted. For that, I need to take a reference to the entry, to the native entry, using this method that you can also find in the documentation of MauiReactor. So we need to actually attach a callback in the entry constructor and save the native entry in a property in a private field of the class like this. Be care that this is actually a reference to the native entry of MauiReactor, of .NET MAUI framework. So here I need to actually call a function like this that let me actually hide the keyboard of the that is now visible for the entry. Let me try to see if now it works. So if I click here, I write something here, I click here. Okay, as you can see now, the keyboard is automatically hidden. Okay, now let's move to the settings page. That is the last one in this design project. Okay, this is a pretty easy to do page because actually we have just a list of menu items, and I wanted to implement this because actually I wanted to test the switching between light and dark theme. Okay, so let's add a settings page. Okay. Still, it should be derived from component. Let's show just an empty page. Okay, now we need to just attach this page from the main page under op under the open page using open page open options pane. Okay, before moving to the settings page, if you look closely to the Figma design project, actually when one click on the hamburger here on the left, what happens is that this bottom sheet is opened. This is a bottom sheet that show on top a couple of menu items. The first one open the statistic page, the second one open the settings page, and on the bottom you see um, all the list with the number of tasks for each list, and also you have the ability to create a new list. In our case, we are not going to implement the new list functionality because we actually have an enum for that. But I want to show you how you can build this pane that is more complex of, if you compare it with this one, but at the end use the same NuGet package from the 49 vendor. So let's create a new option panes here. Okay, the new option pane is actually, of course, is a component that comes from MauiReactor. So here we have to implement the render method. Okay, the options pane show a few things, and also need to inform the main page that either the statistics menu item is clicked or the settings menu item has been clicked. So to do that, first of all, now I'm going to add a few prop, a couple of prop. This is a property that the main page can attach to know when it needs to open one page or the other. And also, I'm going to add a class for the state because actually I need to store a thing that is the list, the grouped list of tasks counted by a num. As you can see here, for example, for hobby, I have 18 tasks, for personal 6 tasks, and so on. So on the mounted of this component, I need to group all the tasks and count for each group by the to-do list item, to-do list, and count the resulting collections. So here we are going to store these discounts in a state that I'm going to create in the onMounted event. So here I have to set the state for the component. So here in the onMounted override, I'm just going to initialize the grouped items by list that I need to use in the bottom part of the pane. So in the render of the component, I'm going to create a, a virtual stack because on the top you have this menu, on the bottom you have the list grouped by to-do list enum. So we have a few stack, and we have a vertical stack. Let's comment out this for now. Let's add the render to-do list on the bottom. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to just show on the bottom the dictionary of the counts. Okay. Now back to the main page here, and I need to just open this option pane, and I want to use it like this. Okay. This is of course async. Okay. Components under option pane. Yeah. Much probably I need to change yeah the namespace. Okay. Oh, the statistic page is not yet built, so for now, oh, okay, I can just create the statistic page as well, just empty for now. So let's create a statistic page here. Here I have to just create a component for now that renders our page that is for now empty. So let's return just the content page. Okay. So if I click on the hamburger menu now, it should show our pane. As you can see, it's already working. Now we need to add the two menu items on the bottom that are this one, statistics and settings. So let's back to the option pane. Okay, now no, actually both of these are pretty similar. What changes is just the icon, the text, and also of course the callback that should be called. So for that I have created a function called render option menu item that accept exactly this, so an icon and a text and a callback to call when someone click on it. So let's render the statistics and then the settings on the bottom. Let's wait a few seconds before, okay, the autoload does its work. Okay, let's see if it works. Okay, now we have the pane working. It contains pretty much everything. So let's see if I call settings, it should open an empty page. That is the empty page, settings page that for now is just blank, of course. Okay, let's add our menu items to this page. So let's get a few things. Okay, even here, as you can see, we have a lot of menu options, but the structure of each option is pretty the same. What changes is more or less just the icon and the icon and the text of the menu item, and also, of course, each has should have a custom callback. So for this, I have created a few utility function, but first of all, let's create the grid that should contain all of our components, like the header and the body. So we have something like this. Okay, we have a grid with the top 64 header as always. Also, we need to specify something like the preferences part and more set of items, menu items. So let's take the render header. The render header is a function that is pretty similar to the other render header that we are using in the other components. So we need to actually render first the header. Of course, it's similar, but is not actually the same. Of course, it shows something like the settings title and ability to pop back to the main page. So let's render the header. Also, I want to here want to show render the body on the of the function. Render body. So maybe better render preferences. And also the render more section. So let's create render preferences first. Okay, the render preferences is something like a vertical stack where the title, the header of the section is preferences, and also I'm going to use, as I did for the option pane, an utility function or something like a method that render our option menu item, and that I want to reuse for all menu items. And this is something that I can just copy paste here. Is again something that is based on a grid with a fixed with one row, a series, in this case 3 columns, with the central part that is star sized. Okay, and now also render preferences. I want to also add here for performance reason is better to return the B stack. I want to also create the render more. The render more is more or less like the render preferences, just that I need to just have some more options, some more menu items, but the structure is pretty similar. Okay. Okay. Okay, maybe there is a small problem because the preferences is not placed correctly. We need to put the preferences on the row 1, I guess. Okay, now seems pretty fine. Okay. Much probably it's even better to put some spaces before the preferences. So I'm going to put something like using a 10 margin on the top. Of course, you can look to the exactly values for the margin for the margins as I did in the design in the Figma design project. Okay, we have everything here. Now, as I want to highlight your attention to this option that is the theme option. The theme option is something that I want to handle because I want to change the theme of the application from light to dark and back to light. So toggle the user app theme. As you can see, I'm going to add this callback where I change the user app theme from light to dark and back. Let's see if it works. So when I change the user app theme, all the resources in the application theme should take the other version. So all the colors should be swapped. As you can see, okay, seems to work pretty fine. So if I go back to the main page, I see that much everything is with the dark theme. Okay, good. Okay, let's back to the settings page. Let's switch back to light. Okay, now we need to look at the last page of the application. That is the last page that I'll show you. That is the statistic page. As you can see, the statistic page, for now, statistic page is just an empty page. Let's move to statistic page. That is this one. Okay. As usual, the statistic page has an header, as you can see. So I can just create the usual grid with the header. Okay. As we are here, I can also add the status behavior uh, from my framework. Okay. Now I have to actually render the header. Let's put in some code that actually render the header. This reader is pretty simple and much similar to the header for the settings page. Again, if you find that you are going to write the same components inside your application, consider to create a component and share it between pages. Okay, so I need to call the render and header. Okay, let's see if we can see the header. Okay, the statistic is there. As you can see here, much probably we need a few properties in a statistic page state, because we need to track the movement between all the view options, weekly, monthly, yearly, all. Much probably we need a state to maintain the current view mode. Also, we need surely a property in our state that actually handle all the filtering of the tasks. Here, when I click on weekly, I want to filter only the task for this week, monthly for this month, yearly for this year, all for all the tasks that are present in our application. So to do that, so I need to create a state for the page and attach it to our component. Okay, so the state should have, as said, the ability to track the current view mode. I can call it something like statistic time mode, that is enum. And so I need to track the current mode in the state. Also, as said, I need to take to store the list of filtered items that I need then to use when I create all these values. Okay. So for that, I'm going to add filter items property into the state. When the component start, I need to actually set up the filtered items list. For that, I'm going to create an utility function and a private function of my component that actually do exactly this. So this, let's add this function back here. So here I'm going to create a function that actually takes as a parameter the mode, and based on the mode, it actually create a list of filtered items using filtering only the to-do items that are inside that data range. It's pretty easy to understand this function, so I don't describe more that. Something that I need to do is to override the unmounted and initially set up the list of filtered items, calling that function just in the unmounted override. Okay, now I have to create this time bar on top. Is something that I can do using an inline component. An inline component is something that I can say an advanced feature of MauiReactor. Is something that is documented in the documentation of MauiReactor, but also you can find in many samples that I created in my repository. An inline component is just a component that you can render inline, so you can render inside just a function. So you don't need to create another class just to handle that component. I called it time navigation bar, so I have a function called render time navigation bar. This render time navigation bar creates actually a grid with 4 columns. For each column, it write accordingly the corresponding statistic time mode, as you can see here. And also it's able to track the movement between the highlighted current mode. Okay, for now let's leave it as is, and I'll just attach it in the main render function. Here you can see you have this function like this. Okay, so we need to call this function. Let's pass it to it the current view mode. And also we need to pass it a function that is called when the user actually click, tap or click on a specific mode. So for example, we are on weekly mode and the user click monthly mode. Here, this callback is called, and the function passes to it the new mode that the user want to change to. So in this case, I have just to update the list of filtering items and set the new statistic, the new view mode according to what the user wants. So given this thing, I guess, okay, we should see, as you can see, the time bar, the navigation bar on top. If I click monthly, as you can see, everything seems working correctly. Just to point out how the animation is done. The animation is done using just with this function. This border is a border that highlights the current mode and has a background of white and has also this function translation x that is parameters that is relative to the width of the full component here. And if I just to show you how you can just remove the animation, if you comment out the width animation, now there is no more animation. Everything is not so more smooth, so we are going to re-add it here now. Okay. And also now we need to add a few more other things, for example, the counters on the top, then the chart, and finally on the bottom, the list of to-do list menu item with the highlights about the number of items for each to-do list and the number of to-do item that is done true. Is done true. Okay, so we need to render actually a body. A body is something that contains more or less what we are saying. So, for example, much probably we need a render body like this. Let's call this render body here. The body should be placed in the bottom, so under the row 2. That is okay. So let's create our body. So the body is something like a grid that oops, that contains a few things. On the top, we need to actually create uh, the counters. This is something that we can easily um, do using the formatted text property that let us change the style of the text that is rendered by .NET MAUI. And of course, here there is something like a margin to add to the grid, just to locate better the counters. Something that I want to highlight is that actually these counts are updated as soon as you change the modality, the view mode of your counters, of your statistic. No? And also I need to add the chart. For that, I want to again use a inline component because I need to track some state and something that want to do like this. Okay, okay. Again, here I need to add a reference to shapes namespace. Okay, this inline component actually actually create this chart like this, also using real numbers, not just fake. And actually, this is a vertical stack of bars, as you can see. And also, if you can look closely, there is also some lines that are dashed vertically to show the progress of the bars. So we have a vertical stack of bars that are realized using a couple of borders that has an animation that show the progress animating. The other border is on the background, but it's pretty easy to understand as soon you can download the code and debug it by yourself. Okay, so the render chart is something that we need to render inside the body. So let's add it. Let's see how it works. Okay, as you can see now, also it changes accordingly to our filter. Also here, yeah, I have just added an animation, a small animation to the bar, so it moves from one state to the other using an animation. Okay, now the last thing we need to add is the list on the bottom that contains the various counters for each to-do list values. This is something that we can just do in a function, in a custom function. Let's call it render statistic. Here, the render statistics is pretty easy to understand. It's just a vertical stack where we are going to actually create all our items that again are just a data grid with a few columns. So the first is a fixed size, the other are start sized. So here you are going to look, you are going to see, we are going to see how that is realized using again the formatted text feature from MauiReactor that let us create this text with different sides, with different colors. And as a last thing, we actually need just to call this function inside the main body function. Okay, of course, we need to surely move on the bottom the statistic, so we need to put it on the last row, and also we need to extend to both columns of the data clip. Okay. If I move around, I see that also the statistics are updated according to our view. Okay, seems that we have finished, we have completed our project. I hope you didn't sleep for all the time. Again, thank you very much, and see you again.